story begins in Chinatown, but specifically a neighborhood called Alexandra Park. The area consists of 3 public housing complexes historically known for Chinese and Vietnamese residents. For most of its history, the projects were pretty peaceful, so police never had to focus in on Alexandra Park. But little did they know the projects were a stronghold for the Triads, a worldwide crime organization based in China. The Triads had structure, rules, and strict regulations. They kept everything secretive, and most importantly, they disguised as regular civilians. In order to be a part of the secret society, you had to go through a vetting process and to prove your ultimate loyalty. Made Triad members often lived an abundant lifestyle, but they had to go through a very long process. But as you would expect, many low-income teenagers were not willing to wait this long. Many of them just wanted to jump off the porch and get money now. In 2005, a small group of teenagers from Alexandra Park decided to group together and jump off the porch. The crew was led by a young man named Michael Nguyen, and he always had 3 friends by his side. These would be Terry Nguyen, Kuelith Chong, and Rowan Atkins. Together, the 4 began getting money the only way they knew how, running inside people's houses. The teens made this their lifestyle throughout the early 2000s until it all came crashing down in 2005. September 20th, 2005. The group of 4 teenagers began getting paranoid that Toronto police may be catching on to their ways. So together they start searching for houses to hit outside of Toronto. At 5 p.m. they decide to make a 4-hour drive to the city of Windsor, Canada. They arrive at 9 p.m. and they begin circling around looking for wealthy areas. At 10 p.m. they find a large house in the St. Clair neighborhood, and this house has no cars in the driveway. So together the 4 get out of the car and rush to the door. Boom! They kick it down and run inside looking for closets. As they scour through the house, they notice a couple under the sheets in the master bedroom. So they direct them onto the ground to make sure they don't dial 911. Little do they know the couple had already called the police once they heard the bang. Well, as the members fill up their bags, they begin hearing sirens in the distance. So they instantly run down to their car, but right there are 5 Windsor police officers. Michael, Terry, Q, and Rowan are all instantly arrested and taken to Ontario jail. During the ensuing trial, the courts found out that the 4 teens were from Alexandra Park, which at the time had no significance. In fact, the judge believed that they were just good kids who fell down the wrong path. So as a result, they were only sentenced to 2.5 years in prison. Once this was revealed, the Windsor community was pissed, but the judge decided to stick by his morals. After the sentencing, the judge named Bruce Brown told them this: "Where you go from here is up to you, but you need to take this to heart." Well, by 2008, the 4 men were back in Alexandra Park. And by all accounts, the young men took nothing the judge said to heart. In fact, when they got home, they were worse than ever before. In 2008, Michael Nguyen decided that he wanted to start a gang. He was already a leader amongst his peers, and he wanted to take this into his own hands. His goal was to be a feared leader in Toronto, the kind of guy that nobody would mess with. He named his crew the Asian Assassins, and he began recruiting from within Alexandra Park. From 2008 to 2011, the Assassins got larger and larger, with more and more young men from the projects joining along. But by this time, the Assassins were not the only ones in Alexandra Park. The Project Originals, also known as PO, had formed their section as well. The Assassins were pretty much the Asian side, and PO was pretty much everyone else. Usually having 2 sets operating within the same projects can be a problem, but that was not the case. For Alexandra Park, everyone from both sets grew up together and they were the best of friends. On top of this, the Project Originals were already knee-deep in a vicious rivalry. For years, they had already been going back and forth with a set called the Sick Thugs. These guys are located in Regent Park, another set of projects just 12 minutes away. Well, coincidentally, Regent Park had the same dynamic as Alexandra. The Sick Thugs were the mostly non-Asian guys from the projects, and their Asian friends had their own set as well. This would be Chin Pak, a group of guys with a similar story and similar motives. For a couple of years, Chin Pak and the Asian Assassins tried to stay out of the PO versus Sick Thugs beef. But with this dynamic, things were eventually gonna fall apart. In November of 2011, a Chin Pak member fought a PO member in jail. This was the first crossover incident, and it definitely messed up the entire dynamic. Both Chin Pak and the Asian Assassins had vowed to stay out of the PO versus Sick Thugs beef. And this small incident sadly opened the floodgates. Just a few months later, in March of 2012, a Sick Thugs member fought an Assassins member in Toronto jail. So now what used to be Sick Thugs versus PO was quickly becoming the entire Regent Park versus the entire Alexandra Park.